think that there are many ways to interpret the ending, the couplet here. Okay, let me show you a bit of what I found. Let me skip the questions here. I think that if you organize the elements, what he says about true love, okay, and what he said about changeful love, and then what the elements he points out about the changes in the circumstances. Maybe for us, contemporary readers, modern readers, we'll find out that the changes in the environment are hard to overcome. In other words, I'm not sure about you, but for me, to ask love to not change is almost impossible. The nature of love for me, always changes in time. It's a matter of how you try to redefine it. At first you may have a passionate love, and then it mellows down. And for like middle-aged couple, it could be kind of friendship. Or a matter of habit. It depends. Maybe you can look at your parents and try to find out the kind of relationship they have, and then sometimes you may be surprised that they were passionate before. I was very surprised that to know that my father used to write 写书 to my mother. When he was he wrote. We never found out whether it's red ink or really his blood, but he wrote what is supposed to be a blood letter to my mother to say. And he wrote 此血白流. In other words, I think my mom at that time was pursued by different guys. Okay, so my father was angry, and that was the time when they were in Shanghai, etc., etc. So one time when we tried to move to another place, we cleaned the closet, and we found this letter, 此血白流. And we were really surprised. We saw that, they never love each other, or they never said I love you to each other. But then, your parents, like my parents, had a moment of maybe passionate love, romantic love, and then it will mellow down. It will be turned to something else, either more steady or more lukewarm. 好像平平淡淡的, in either way. Okay, so here, alteration remover. There are so many alteration in this world, so many things that can take away something you used to have: your beauty, your money, your home, your school, your friends, etc. Okay, and natural changes, the storm, and how we get lost in natural disasters. Our physical beauty can change. Okay, and then time, which is cycle, the abstract concept, which shows that we mortals are all under his control. And then even love has his brief hours and weeks. Okay, and then love has to come across, has to face the edge of doom. Okay, so I think that if you really compare the elements that he says, then we, in a way, the changeful things are more concrete, and it takes a larger space in a poem than the unchangeable, or than love being the unchangeable. And all things considered, the both are that true love equals that people have loved, and equals that his writing works and his writing exists. I think it's really a desperate, bold assumption. In other words, for me to be so bold to say that if the idea of love does not happen, then I don't write. In a way, it's the exact opposite to Shall I Compel Thee to a Summer's Day. In Shall I Compel Thee to a Summer's Day, the sonneteer is so proud of his poem that he believes that his lover can remain immortal in his poem. But here, the sonnet here is aware of mortality, is aware of changefulness, to the degree that he's willing to sacrifice his own poem, his own corpus 就全部的作品 to get true love. But that's really, from our perspective, not possible. Okay, I don't know what Shakespeare thinks, but from our perspective, the kind of true and unchanging love, is not possible because human beings change. Yeah. Okay. So I think that if you analyze them, then the punchlines really produce different meanings. It's all up to you. And there are a lot of other elements to analyze. For instance, why are there repetitions? Okay, and then the rhymes, and the development of the 3 quatrains to the couplet. Okay, the repetition of alter, and finally alter. Okay, and also the usage of a lot of monosyllables. I want to use the rest of the time to really interest you. I don't think I'm a dynamic teacher to be able to always interest you, but I want to try my best after this. So let me give you a summary here with a paragraph from another critic, and then we'll move on to what is for me the fun part. Okay, here there is a description by a critic, a very famous critic, about the poem, to say that there are a lot of 75% of the words are monosyllables. Okay, and then the words there's very little poetic diction. Okay, time-sickle, yes, a little bit, but not too many. Okay, so nothing recondite, nothing exotic, nothing metaphysical. It's all plain English. Okay, and then the rhyme has the alteration between closed and open vowels. 就是 close open vowel 就是像 storm， OK， fine 就 close vowel， OK， 就是那个后面有 explosive 结束的 ，fines mark bark。那 shaken 就是没有那个 explosive 结束的，就是那个 open vowel remove love。Okay, so there's a fine repetition here of open vowels and closed vowels. Okay, and also the couplet. Here the critic uses very good language to say that, although it's overall iambic pentameter, but then in the first 3 quatrains, the accent is fluttering. By fluttering, it means that it's not always iambic. When you read it yourself, you'll find out that sometimes it's spondy, or sometimes there are one syllable with no stress. Okay. Okay, but then the final couplet is iambic. So there is this emphatic march of the iambic lines, 2 lines. Okay. So altogether, there's nothing strange about the poem. It's all easily understood, except for the strangeness of perfection. How can love be so perfect? Okay, and then it makes you wonder what he wants to say. Yeah. Okay, this is another poem which is really just apparently simple, but it worth a lot of your deep reflection about the meanings of love or the meanings of mortality. This week and next week we'll be dealing with a lot of quite a few poems that put love together with mortality. Okay, let's move on to Romeo and Juliet. Before we break, I want to explain Shakespeare in Love to you, and also a little bit of the older version of Romeo and Juliet, and then we'll analyze the sonnet. The courting sonnet happens in Act 1, Scene 5. At the beginning, let me just summarize the story really, really quickly. At the beginning, in Romeo and Juliet, Romeo falls out of love with Rosalind. So he's sad, and also he's bothered by the conflict between the two families. I think from the other household there is Mercutio, who seeks fight with him. Okay, so that's a conflict. And then his friends ask him to take a break. So they take him to the banquet. And then at the banquet he meets the young Juliet. And that's where there's this courting sonnet. And that's the first time they encounter, and they kiss each other. And then after that, I think the Romeo is found out to be from the other household, so he escaped. But then he goes back to try to find Juliet, and there is a very famous balcony scene. 就他们在那个，就 Juliet 在阳台上 ，Romeo 在下面叫他。There is this very famous balcony scene, and then they realize that they really cannot stay together. So the friar invented a scheme. But let me show you the film to give you a sense of how the story. You know how the story ends, right? Romeo and Juliet. I think you know it, right? The friar give Romeo some potion or poison, and give Juliet some. Yeah. Give Julia some potion to help her fake death for some length of time. And then Romeo, because he thought that Julia is dead, he commits suicide. And when Julia wakes up, she finds that Romeo is dead, and then she commits suicide too. And so that's the end. Basically, Romeo and Juliet is about young love, youthful love, passionate love that doesn't last, because they cannot tide over the difficulties of this family feuds. Okay. And very interestingly, in Shakespeare in Love, the play Romeo and Juliet is set in the context of Shakespeare's love affair with another lady. Let me show you the name of the lady. Viola de Lesseps. Okay, and then there were the parallel plot lines between the film where Romeo falls in love with Shakespeare falls in love with Viola, but Viola is engaged to a Duke of Wessex. Okay, and then because their love is frustrated, Shakespeare writes the story, the elements of frustration and also eternal love, etc., into the play of Romeo and Juliet. And also in the beginning of the film, it also shows that Shakespeare falls out of love because he finds that his lover is disloyal to him. Okay, so there are a lot of echoes between the play, the film and the Shakespearean plays. So let me show you a little bit of it. I'll skip the break because very soon, in 10 minutes, I'll get you into groups and you can have your time being relaxed. So basically, I think that I wanted to show you this film not because of its realistic rendering of the creation of Romeo and Juliet. It's all fiction. But I think that the film is really well produced, and it shows how poems can be read with emotions. Okay. So and also the idea of love and poetry. If you do read the whole, if you do watch the whole film, you will find out that at one point the queen says that the play cannot present real love. But both Viola and Shakespeare believes in the power of poetry and play. But then at another point, they believe that they love each other beyond poetry, and that is poetry cannot express their love. So there is always a conflict or a tension between poetic or literary creation and love. As there is this conflict in Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day, until at the end they have to part. And then their parting from each other gives Romeo a lot of, Shakespeare a lot of inspiration to produce the other plays, like Romeo and Juliet and Twelfth Night, were all inspired by Viola, according to the film. Okay, so literature and its relation to love, is another thing which is quite interestingly presented in this film. Okay, let me show you the sonnet, and also the context a little bit. I'm not going to read you the lines. These are for your reference. This is when Romeo sees Juliet at the beginning, and if you read the lines closely, you'll find out that he compares Juliet, with traditional images. Okay, like snowy dove, rich jewel, etc., etc. Okay, and then the courting sonnet produced by the two of them shows how there can be an extended metaphor, which is like a conceit. But then in the middle of it, they change their metaphors. They change the meaning of the metaphor. You have the handouts, right? Let me show you how the lines are read really beautifully. In the previous rendering, our focus may be on the love between Shakespeare and Viola, but there is the traditional version. So basically, in the play, Juliet also says that you kiss by the book, and that's another witty part from Juliet, because kissing by the book can mean that Romeo invent a poem in order to kiss her, or Romeo kissed by the Bible, or he kissed by the regulations. He's not good at kissing. So there are several implications when Juliet kind of teases Romeo to say that you kiss by the book. Okay. Here I introduce to you the change of the metaphor, and how the metaphors has some religious connotation, like pilgrim and palmer, etc. But let's talk about it after the break. Oh, no, we shouldn't have a break now. I'll get you into the groups very soon, so you can be more relaxed. So one thing to note here is that there are religious images in this poem, okay? And then the way the metaphor develops, from Romeo's comparing his lips to two blushing pilgrim, to Juliet's using pilgrim to refer to Romeo, okay? And then her arguing that for pilgrims, the kiss is palm to palm. And then she said that lips are for prayer. And then Romeo takes up on this idea to say that then let lips do what palms do, what hands do. Okay, and also he says that this is a prayer, so the saint should grant the prayer. Okay, and that's how he manages to kiss her. Okay, so the whole thing is the interchanges here are all very witty, because Juliet actually is just being coy. She doesn't really reject Romeo's approach. So the two of them making the sonnet in order for the courting to happen, and also then to make the kiss possible. So that shows how both of them, though young, are very clever in language, and also in the way ways to approach the other sex. Okay, finally, just a bit of the background. We talk about courtly love, and courtly love is a kind of medieval love that happened in like the kingdom, the castle, between the knights and the ladies. But when it evolves through the Petrarchan tradition to Shakespeare, it becomes a kind of courting sonnet, happening like on the balcony or in a secret place. Courtly love, 宫廷式爱情, usually happens between a king and a knight and the queen. So it's a kind of illegal, illicit. And then when it gets to Shakespeare time, the kind of courtly love that's described is also illegal, illicit. But then we get to see the character change from the knight and lady to two youngsters. And that's how Shakespeare tried to describe young passionate love, and how they have their wit they have their passion, but then they are also quite reckless in their decision, and that leads to the tragedy. Okay, with metaphysical conceit or metaphysical poetry that you will be reading next time, you will see more intellectual elements in the production of poems. You know, even more so than the Shakespearean sonnet that you have read today. You know, like I show you today two parts: the really loving part, emotional part through Shakespeare in Love and Romeo and Juliet, and then the witty part through the analysis of the first two sonnets, and even in the courting sonnet. But then, you know, next week you'll get to see more wordplay, more intellectual elements in the metaphysical poetry. Okay? Okay, so here's your part. Why don't you get into groups now? If you want, you can take a short break, but what I want you to achieve is first to come up with a poem that you want to present in the poetry workstation, okay, and then to let us know how you are going to present an interesting part. You know, the possible elements you want to present. Were you to choose a sonnet? Now, maybe later on you'll be choosing something else, but if you were to choose a sonnet, you know, which element would you want to include? You know, like whether you want to explain a difficult part, whether you want to analyze the sound effects, or whether you have two persons reading some lines, or you explain the relevance of the poems to our society, our world, or whether you have some other more creative ideas, like playing a game or doing the puzzle with a poem. For instance, you can cut the sonnet into 4 pieces and have your students reorganize them, put them back together, etc. Okay, or maybe you can ask your student to recreate the couplets, you know, turn it into something else. Okay, okay. So you have about 10 minutes. You know, 5 minutes to be relaxed and 5 minutes to try to produce some ideas. Okay, why don't you go ahead?